Mike Reiss, Christian Fauria in the building, bye week or not. Christian, first you've been through the bye week experience. How recharged are these Patriots going to be coming back to the office this week? Did you feel like a new man back in the day coming out of the break?
Yeah, like what I've always said when it comes to the bye week is as far as recovering, like one day off in the NFL really feels like 2 weeks. 2 days off feels like 2 months. And God forbid, if you get three days off, it feels like almost like a year. That's how refreshed, not only physically, more importantly, mentally, because now the hard part of the season is kind of over. You got 4 games left, and then you got the playoffs. So for me, that's easy. Like I can get into that. I can get by with that, and I can absolutely be ready to really make a difference moving forward.
Mike Vrabel making the point, bye week doesn't just translate to a win necessarily. Mike, set the table for us moving forward, though. He was talking about getting guys back being really the biggest thing for the Patriots coming out of it. Who can we expect back in the office here this week?
So, Nick, I'll tell you, I was in the locker room early last week talking to Jared Wilson, the starting left guard. I said, what are you doing for the bye week? He said, I'm staying around, got to get treatment on my ankle. So he's one on the list that you hope maybe has a chance to come back. But 2 that I think are really maybe a little further along. Brendan Schooler, all-pro special teamer. He was on the sideline for the Monday night game against the Giants with the bad ankle. If he can be on the sideline with the bad ankle in those temperatures, it tells me he maybe isn't too far away. And Kairos Tonga, the defensive tackle, who would start with Milton Williams still on injured reserve, I think he's got a chance to come back from that chest injury that knocked him out of the last game.
That would be huge with Josh Allen, of all guys, coming to town here. And talking about being on to Buffalo, of all teams coming out of the bye week, possible hat and T-shirt game. Hard to believe that we are talking about hat and T-shirts around this area again. What would that mean, Christian, to this team to be able to close out by dethroning the defending champs at Gillette? And how tall of a task is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, it's not going to be easy. They found new life now since the last time you played them. And they just got a big win against Cincinnati, a game that really they should have lost until their defense made a bunch of plays. But hat and T-shirt is really just a milestone. It's just the first step. I mean, it's not like a Major League Baseball, or if you win, if you win a playoff series, everybody douses you in champagne. That's not the way it happens in football. You really don't really celebrate until you actually win the Super Bowl. But it's a milestone. You can plant your flag in the ground, say, okay, we accomplished one of the things that we wanted to do, and then you really just got. It's not like you could stop. You still have Baltimore, you still have the Jets, and you still have the Dolphins. And with the division and the standings being so close, I don't think they can afford to kind of sleepwalk through anybody.
Mike, you look at the last 4 games on the slate. Who does scare you? Would it be the Bills among others, or who are you going with?
So Nick, if I had to sort of power rank the last 4 games, I'd put Buffalo at the top of the list of teams that I think would give the Patriots the biggest challenge. And then I'd put the Ravens next on the list. And then I'd put the Dolphins at number 3. They're sort of sneaky coming on in the last game. And then the Jets would be my 4th team, on the 4th. But I have to say, who scares me? Honestly, none of them scare me for the Patriots, because I think if the Patriots can play the way they're capable of playing, they can beat anyone. But I think these next 2 games, we're going to learn a lot about New England in terms of how they measure up against 2 of the better teams, in my opinion, even with the Ravens losing to the Steelers earlier today in the league.
And you think about kind of just this last road here going to the playoffs, the possible top seed. There's for the taking, possibly, depending on what the Broncos do. As far as controlling what they can control, Christian, what can stand in the way of the Patriots in the top seed?
I mean, it may seem just more like a cliche, but it ultimately is health. I don't think youth is an issue. I don't think head coach is an issue, coordinators. I don't think any of that's an issue. I think they have an answer for almost everything, really, in any situation. Playing on the road isn't an issue. That's some of their biggest wins on the road. Ultimately, I think it's health. If they can't get healthy, if those guys aren't at 100%, by the time they get to the playoffs and the competition is much tougher and the stakes are obviously higher, I think that'll be the one thing that slows them down. But other than that, I can't think of anything internally that I would be nervous about.
I like the thoughts, Christian. I got one that I'll toss out there. I'm curious what both of you think about this. Mm-hmm. When they need a yard in the red zone, can they pick it up? And I did a little bit of research on their red zone offense over this whole bye week, just because I wanted to get myself familiar. And I think back to the New Orleans game when they were on the goal line and they struggled to get it in. I think back to the Tampa game when they were at the goal line and they needed a thread-the-needle pass to Stephon Diggs on 4th down to get it in. I think about the Bengals game when there were 6 plays from the 1-yard line and they couldn't get it in. And then I think about this last game against the Giants where the red zone offense was still a little bit shaky. So that would be the one thing that I'm thinking about. I don't know if you agree, disagree, but it was one thing I put on the top of my list.
I mean, I'll put it on the list. Yeah. It's absolutely on the list. And I would say even against the Cincinnati Bengals, that's when, Will Campbell was hurt, Wilson was hurt. So you can sit there and look at that as being a possible issue. They had an offensive pass interference call that shouldn't have happened, but it did. But yeah, you know what? Just because I love you so much, I will let that be number 1. And I'll put health at number 2.
Nick, what
about you, Nick?
What do you think, Nick?
I agree. You guys are the professionals, man. I'm leaning on what you say. How about this, though? Final thought on Drake Maye. Obviously, we can't go in an entire conversation without talking about Drake. If he continues, comes out of this game, still at the top of the league there in terms of completions percentage, yardage, touchdowns, is this his MVP moment?
So Nick, I was thinking about this before we came on, and I feel like it's like a ping pong match. We're going back and forth. Last week, it was Drake Maye. The week before, it was Matthew Stafford. The week before, it was Drake Maye. Matthew Stafford played really well today in that game against the Cardinals. So I think it's really, really close with a decisive 300-yard plus passing performance against the Bills. Drake Maye maybe could put himself back in the pole position, but I think we got 4 games left, and it is TBD to me in terms of where this MVP thing's going to go.
If things stay the same, I think Matthew Stafford gets it. Yeah. Just based on how long he's been in the league, sentimental favorite, was won a Super Bowl, everything that goes with it.
Fair.
And I think people look at Drake Maye. No, it isn't fair. I don't even think it's fair, Mike. When we think about it, it really should be who deserves it, who played the best. Yeah. This is not a career achievement. It's a 1-year MVP. Who was the most valuable for the team? And it's going to be close. But I think as voter, I think they would lean towards Matthew Stafford.
Hard to hear, especially if he outshines the reigning MVP not once but twice.
Good point, Nick. Good point.
Just throwing that out there, man. Quite the welcome back for the bye week, though, fellas. Game on. Let's see what they do here against Buffalo, and then the road. There's no telling what here comes for the Patriots. They will see if they can get that top seed here down the road. Much appreciated, gentlemen.
Thanks, Nick.